worked very, very closely with the cybersecurity organizations, the red teams, on the physical security side of cyber risk. They were designing new executive protection programs for Mark at that time. And so in September of 2013, I went there as a consultant and I designed the executive protection program for training happening at the State Department. And they realized that my team, seven guys, were actually attacking diplomats and training, teaching them how to survive. And so the team I was on, we got grabbed by the Accountability Review Board on Benghazi.
Hello viewers, welcome to the VPN Ranks Podcast, where we feature thought leaders in cybersecurity. Today we are honored to have Tim Wensel, CPP, a global security executive and recognized thought leader in leadership, kindness, and risk management. Tim has been named a global influencer by IFSEC International and has made significant contributions to enterprise security risk management. Known for building high-performing teams and fostering trust, Tim is also a dedicated mentor and veteran. Join us as we explore his insights on leadership, risk management, and innovation. Welcome to the podcast, Tim. I am honored to have you here with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So my first question to you is, can you start by sharing your journey into the security industry? What actually sparked your interest in this field?
Sure. So I was interested in joining the Army when I was young. And so I joined our National Guard, which is like part-time military, as a combat medic. So I actually started in the medical field. And when I wasn't doing my time with the military, I was on the ambulance as a paramedic and working in hospitals. And that was fun. I thought that's what I would do for the rest of my life. And in early 2003, January, my unit was put on orders and we ended up going and invading Iraq. And that opened my mind to all of the different types of security things out there because I was attached to a military police unit. So we did security operations, we did convoys, we protected officers. We did all sorts of different things that I didn't realize were part of the security industry. And so once I came home in July of 2004 from Iraq, the ambulance was a little boring. And I was not finding the excitement there. Plus, I was just a little caged. There was a box that I could work within, and everything else required permissions, and I wasn't able to think and reason as freely as I wanted to. So I went to an executive protection school, and by 2007, I was back in Iraq as a security contractor, a security team medic. So I was both protecting people and doing the medical treatment of people if necessary. And that was a lot of fun. I did that until the end of 2010. And when I came home, I started working in the Washington, D.C. area, protecting some members of the Saudi royal family, which was really interesting. And then that year in 2011, the Iranians attempted to assassinate the Saudi ambassador to the U.S., which was very close to the family I was working with. And so I found myself in the middle of that whole international incident, dealing with all of the agencies and all of the fallout. And then later on, the following year, in 2012, I moved over to teaching at the State Department. And I was in diplomatic security, and I was teaching diplomats how to be safe when they went to Iraq. Also teaching diplomatic security agents how to do protective operations. And 3 months into that, in September of 2012, Benghazi happened. We lost our ambassador. He was killed over in Libya. And the U.S. Congress did an investigation into all of the training happening at the State Department, and they realized that my team, seven guys, were actually attacking diplomats in training and teaching them how to survive. And so the team I was on, we got grabbed by the Accountability Review Board on Benghazi, and they said, here's the white paper that's going to come out. We want you to design new training for all diplomats going to high threat zones. And so we did that, and then we brought the news through, and it was very publicized. So that's very interesting. And then in 2013, a friend of mine asked if I had ever thought about working at Facebook. And I said, no, that makes no sense. Why would I work at Facebook? Right? And so they were designing new executive protection programs for Mark at that time. And so in September of 2013, I went there as a consultant and I designed the executive protection program for him, and the following year for other executives. And then in 2015, I started the Security Technology Research and Development Lab. And then I built their global anti-corporate espionage program. So if you are a nation state or a competitor trying to steal our information by not hacking through the firewall, going, into the company, social engineering, things like that, that fell into my portfolio. And so I worked very, very closely with the cybersecurity organizations, the red teams, on the physical security side of cyber risk, right? Because we know that security is actually a coin, right? One side is cyber, the other side is physical. In this day and age, you can't separate the two, or else you're only mitigating half. So that's my story.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. What actually inspired your philosophy of leading with kindness, and how do you implement it in high-stakes security environments?
That's a great question. So I think everybody can relate to having bad leaders, people they didn't enjoy working for, leaders who didn't inspire a joyful environment for their team, and instead people had anxiety, they were unhappy, they were afraid of what was going to happen, consequences. And I'm no different. I had my share of leaders like that. But as my career progressed, I started running into these people in a different environment. They were no longer my leader. And I thought at one point they were really terrible people. But now meeting them in a different environment, they were actually fine. They were good people. And so I started asking myself, like, how can you be terrible over here and fine here? And I started asking questions and wanting to hear people's story. And I started to realize that there is an underlying insecurity in security. We all come from government mostly, military, law enforcement, government agents. And when we make the transition to the private side, the environment changes so abruptly that the tools that we've developed, especially in leadership, don't always translate well to the private environment. Plus, we don't have any knowledge of business. And we leave a place to where what we do is a function of law. It has to be done. And now, what value do you bring? How do you contribute to the revenue of this company? And so I started the leading with kindness philosophy based on how to understand relationships and how to lead more effectively, getting rid of the government mentality and understanding how people want to be treated, how they're led well, and really how to inspire people, which I think is very important. And I think every leader, they want to be an inspirational leader, but it just doesn't happen. It's something that has to be done intentionally, and you have to lead in that manner.
With your background in healthcare, how do you apply problem-solving skills to identify the root causes of risk in other industries?
So I believe that if you want to be successful in business, you don't actually need to go to college. You just need to be a paramedic for 2 or 3 years. Because the patient assessment that every EMT, every nurse, every doctor, every single medical professional around the world, they learn the same assessment. And basically what they did was they said, look, this is how the human body is across the world. Everybody, body, they work this way. So they defined an ecosystem and a way to analyze the symptoms, the pain that is being caused, and to understand the root cause, right? And so when you have a bad doctor, when people are like, my doctor is terrible, they probably don't mean he's not educated. He's obviously educated. It's just he keeps treating the symptoms and the root cause is never addressed, and I always feel sick. And that is what we do in security. The organizations bring us their business pain. And we keep treating the symptoms, but we never get to the root cause of that business pain. And so the businesses say, our security departments are terrible. Nothing they do works. They make it worse. It's the same concept. And so if you can really understand the organization you serve, the ecosystem that you live within, whether it's physical security or cybersecurity, you can apply these same questions, the same methods and pathways that the medical assessment has, and you can learn how to identify the root causes of the business pain in any organization, in any industry. And now you can educate your patient, the organization, on why they're having that pain and how you can help. But security just doesn't fix security pain independently. They need to work with legal and HR. There's organizational culture issues. Everything in a body works together. And when we think that security within a business is just security, that's why we fail.
So moving on, what role does mentorship play in the security industry, and how can aspiring professionals find the right mentors?
It's a big deal. So when I started off as an EMT, day one, if I showed up to the ambulance company and said, I want to become a doctor, how do I do that? If somebody sat down with me at the computer, by the end of that day, I could have my path planned. What colleges I need to go to, the courses I need to attend, how long it would take, where I would have to do a fellowship, etc. And by this date, I will be a doctor. Anybody who walks into their first security job and says, hey, how can I become a CSO or a CISO or a CIO? What is their path? No one knows. It doesn't really make sense. We haven't really established the same type of profession like the medical field has or the legal field has. So mentorship is a big deal because you can go to college and you can get a degree that does not indicate that you're going to be successful. You can go and get a CPP or a PSP or a CISSP, CISM. All of these great credentials does not mean you're going to be successful. And so really understanding what resources are available to you in the industry and finding people that can plug you into those resources, get you introduced to the different types of people that you're going to need along the career path that you're trying to plan, it's huge. You can't really be successful without that. And so how do you find a mentor? Well, one, you can join a security organization, right? An association, and start volunteering and start meeting people. And you can find people that you look up to, that you aspire to be like. And that's important because anytime you you gain a mentor, they're going to start to make you into them. They're going to take you down their path, right? And so don't just choose somebody random because you might start to become someone you don't want to become. Find somebody that inspires you. Find somebody that you look up to who is walking the path that you want to walk, that is at the point or getting to the point that you want to get to, and start talking to them. That's the most important thing.
Being named a global influencer in the security industry is a significant achievement. How has this recognition impacted your work and influence?
Thank you. That is quite the achievement. I'm not sure I deserve it actually, but it's happened a couple times now. So how has it affected? Well, one, it really does help raise your profile around the world. You get an award, people see that. And then people start coming to you with questions, looking for advice, or I'm a consultant now, so people will start to approach me for help with projects and different things like that. So when you get this type of award, when you start to be recognized as an influencer, a thought leader, it's my opinion that you really have to be intentional and understand your purpose in every situation, because there are people watching you. There are people learning from you in every instance that you're a part of. Everything that you say has more meaning for some reason, and people are taking it, thinking about it, and implementing it. So there's a lot of added responsibility. I mean, and then you get speaking opportunities. Sometimes people that you work with don't appreciate you being elevated, and so sometimes it actually brings some hardship. That's everything in this world, right? Anytime somebody is successful, somebody's not going to be happy about it. But definitely it brings more responsibility, and we have to be far more intentional with how we treat people, the things that we do, and the things that we say.
So, as a global security executive, thought leader, and coach, how do you balance these roles, and what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, these roles are not separate from each other. This last time, a year ago, when I was looking for my next opportunity, I was interviewing with several companies. I was talking to lots of people. And I would tell them, have you looked at my LinkedIn page? Have you seen the videos and the articles that I post on kindness and leadership and risk management? And they're like, oh, yeah. Okay, well, watch them, because that's actually who I am. And then sometimes I do security too, because I think my role in the world, there's a leadership deficit within security and within organizations, even Fortune 100 organizations. People who should be leading for some reason are not doing it effectively, which creates a lot of the issues that we see. And so this is something that always has to be spoken about and discussed. And you need to challenge people on where they're at and what they're doing and what they should be doing, and not in an unfriendly way, but trying to help them understand what their true role is, even if they don't see it, and try to inspire them to live up to that. So the whole thought leader, security executive, keynote speaker thing, they all work together. I am that all the time, every day, no matter what client I'm in front of, no matter what audience I'm in front of. I just returned last night from Panama, and Lee Outen and I addressed the Women LATAM forum, and it was amazing. We talked to them about leading with kindness, how leadership can take a variety of forms in security, the risk of leading, and it was fantastic. And then soon I'm going to be in Florida, and then I'm going to Nashville speaking. So a typical day for me, honestly, once a week, once every 2 weeks, I'm on a podcast. About once a week, I'm on a mentor call with somebody. I usually carry about 8 mentees. And obviously I have client work that I do, but I'm also writing articles for Security Journal Americas. So where I am in my journey at this moment, it's less about the things that I do, right? The work that I put out. And it's really more about how thoughtful I am with the concepts of security, risk management, leadership, right? Because I'm modeling, I'm advising, I'm talking to the C-suite of Fortune 100 companies, on a weekly basis.
Right.
And so really having a clear line of thought and understanding these concepts is so important, because executives at that Fortune 100 level, they will push back. They will ask questions. They will dig deep to really figure out what is useful and what is not. And at this level, if you don't have a thorough understanding of the mechanics of your beliefs and your industry, the advice that you're giving, you're not going to be very successful because business executives, they will probe and they will eventually see through it. So a lot of thinking, a lot of writing, a lot of contemplating, a lot of really just understanding the world that I'm in, if that makes sense.
Do you have any hobbies or interests that might surprise your colleagues in the security industry?
Well, I don't know if it'll surprise anybody because I'm always talking about it, but skiing, I love it. The skis are always against the wall.
Yeah, I was actually noticing them.
Yeah, it's a great conversation starter. I love playing tennis. I play pickleball too, and backpacking. I like to go off into the wilderness and spend a week away and just take in the quiet and see nature and what God has done around me and really just get away from the hustle. I think that's really important. A lot of people need to disconnect. I carry 2 phones. That way I can turn work off and walk away.
If you could work on any project or initiative, no matter how ambitious, what would it be and why?
Well, I'm kind of already working in it. The Kindness Games is an organization that Lee Outen and I have. And we are trying to help people understand the role of kindness in their everyday life so that they can heal their communities and change the world by leading with kindness. And I think today in this world where we're all very polarized and divided, everybody has very strong opinions. And sadly, we've lost the ability to have a conversation with someone we disagree with. There's a sickness. Yeah, there's a sickness that we have right now that we have to be right, which means that we end up wronging many other people, right?
Right.
It used to be that you would meet someone and you would be curious about them and you would want to understand where they came from and how life has been and what adventures have they been on and what do they believe. And even if you didn't agree with what they believed, it was fascinating to know another person that deeply. I want to lead the world back to that spot to where we sit down to dinner with people we have nothing in common with. And then a couple hours later realize that we're humans and 95% of what we want is the same. It's just how we get there that's different. And, I learned that. I spent my 20s in Iraq, as a soldier and as a contractor. Middle Eastern culture is one of my favorite cultures in the world. I love the people. I love, their customs and how things go. But you would think that a 20-some-year-old American soldier in the Middle East would not like those people or have anything in common, yet surprisingly, we have so much in common and we can really appreciate each other. So I hope we can get back to that.
Okay, so you could have any superpower to help you with work and security and risk management. What would it be and how would you use it?
I think it is curiosity.
Curiosity.
I really think curiosity comes back. If you're curious, then you're open to learning. And if you can accumulate new information and compare it against the information you have, you can move forward. Also, if you're curious, you're not defensive. You're not pushing your agenda. You're not being blinded by what you think is true. And within risk management, that's huge. Within any organizations have blind spots. They intend for specific outcomes, and so they think it's moving that way. And even when all signs point to it's not, a lot of times they have trouble seeing it. So I think curiosity is the key, and then understanding how to implement processes is the second thing, because without process, you don't have repeatability. And so you can't forecast what you think is going to happen and then measure what actually happens.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our interview. Thank you so much for taking out the time for us, and I really love talking to you.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much.